Hello, everyone. You're listening to a Coffees with Toffees podcast. I will be your host, Flubb, and this is the Brewmaster's Draft show that we talk about different drafts that we have come together, and basically we're just sitting around having a beer, talking about what we all love, drafting and strategy in Dota. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Kimbrell. Kimbrell, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
I always feel like I'm taking you hostage. I'm like, hey, say hi now, you know? But no, it's all fun here. We're going to talk about the beers we were drinking. Sadly, tonight, I'm not going to be able to share in the festivity of having a beer. I have been sick over the weekend, and I just took a bunch of medicine, like, right before this. So, I mean, I seem okay, but I don't really want to be mixing medicine and drinking. It's not the best combo. I don't want to be plastered, so, you know, we're just here to have fun and not to be that bad. So we're going to just go to Kimbrell this week. Kimbrell's going to be talking about his beer that he's going to be drinking. Kimbrell, I'm going to give it over to you. What beer are you drinking this week?
Okay, so the last few weeks I've always had a beer that I've had before. So I went to the liquor store yesterday, and Saturday. Decided to find one that looked interesting that I've never had before. So the beer that I grabbed that looks very interesting is called sho'nuff. sho'nuff, and it's a golden ale. And it's all
right,
and it's brewed out of Louisville. So
first impressions, not bad so far.
Not bad so far. We'll see.
All right. Well, we're gonna do a new thing. We did it last week as well. We're gonna kind of give a while to generally drink down these beers, you know, enjoy them. And then we'll tell you about them at the end of the show. So we're gonna get into what we're always here for the draft. And this week it's my duty to give you a new draft idea. And this week I'm pretty excited about the draft. I've been like having this style of draft on hiatus for a long time because I didn't know what patch it would work with, and I think I found the patch that I'm very, very proud of, and it is this patch that this draft is going to work in. So the idea is actually an Enchantress draft, and it's not an Enchantress draft as like you would normally think. I will get into that in a little bit, but I'm going to have to explain the picking order first, and then I want to put Kimber on a tightrope here and see what he can think of, where I'm putting everyone, and kind of go from there. So I'm going to give you guys the heroes. So first off, the first pick would be Vengeful Spirit, very popular pick right now. Kunka is the next pick. So you got that. There's a little combination there, and I'll get into it later. So we got Vengeful Kunka, we got Abaddon, everyone's favorite right now, and pretty much everyone's favorite in pubs. If you've noticed, he's actually a pick. I think it's really interesting. There was like someone did a top 5 guys that are picked and top 5 guys that win all the time in every patch, and Abaddon's always the ones on the winning side of pub drafts, which is really funny and kind of inspired me a little bit to bring this back out of retirement. So we got Abaddon. We also got Shadow Shaman as our 4th pick, and our last and final pick, the secret Enchantress pick. So, Kimbrell, I want to give you I'm going to let you go and kind of see what you think that this draft is. I want to see if I can surprise you on this one. What do you think the lanes would be in this situation?
Okay, so breaking it down, I was assuming it was going to be a Kunka mid, a Vengeful carry, Abaddon off lane with the Enchantress roaming kind of in the jungle and Shadow Shaman supporting the Vengeful Spirit. That's what I took it as. So what do you got for me? I'm probably way off.
Your instincts are correct on the idea of this is how a normal draft would go, but you got to throw in a little bit of stank on it, like I always do, that little bit of flub into it. And I love the idea of Shadow Shaman mid. Shadow Shaman mid is something I've been pushing for, especially with this setup, how it is now with that plus 18 damage. Exactly, I see your face, buddy. I see your face. That Shadow Shaman mid, has so much potential right now, and it is fantastic. I love this idea for a draft. He actually kind of like fit into this draft, where I used to kind of go with other people, and it just didn't ever feel right. And now I have found my hero. So Shadow Shaman mid, fantastic, great at shutting down a lot of the heroes that are currently in the meta right now, especially what is his name? The Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend is very very good versus him. Obviously the high base attack damage, being able to put out a lot of pressure with his nuke, and just forcing him out of lane. Even in a standpoint of using shrines, where shrines are kind of like used as a way to not deal with harassment as badly. Like the harassment meta kind of fell out of favor because of shrines. But what Shadow Shaman offers is so much harassment, so much damage that he can't even stay in lane for the amount of mana that you're using in lane, even with shrines. So it's a fantastic hero to play right now. Then what's really weird, you did guess this right. Vengeful is the carry, but Kunka is going to be the other support. So Kunka's going to be supporting Venge up top generally in this draft. The idea of this is that Kunka offers a lot of lockdown for someone. Same thing with Venge. It basically guarantees kills up top. Guarantees that anybody who goes to that lane with only 2 people will die. So it guarantees that general fight. It's a lot of single target with Venge. It's a lot of single target with Shadow Shaman. Kunka brings the AoE. He brings the torrent. He brings the ship. He gives you more buff to these guys that are generally weaker, as them being an agility and a intelligence. And then we got the off lane, and this is a special thing. So yes, Abaddon is in the off lane, but he is supporting the Enchantress, and Enchantress kind of gives that off lane a potential where you kind of forcefully take fights, and you actually want to level up not your ability to grab creeps. You actually want to level up your ability to ignore the auto attacks from the supports in general like that. So you keep them at bay and give them the shield. Give her the shield when she's getting gone on, because everyone wants to blow up an Enchantress since she has no health. So a pretty weird idea. I've come up with this before, and I've tried to do it, and it actually works incredibly well if the other lanes work out. You're just putting so much into that style of draft. And the thing is about this draft is if you draft Venge and Kunka first, you have the ability to make them, like if the draft doesn't work in general, like if they're going to pick up Sven, or if they're going to pick up some other combo that does a lot of magic damage that just doesn't really fit the draft for an Enchantress, since it's the last pick, you have Vengeful Kunka, which is an incredible support duo, because one goes through BKB and the other one is all about if they don't have BKB and adds team fight. So you have that potential there. Abaddon, like you said, could be a solo offlaner, and Shadow Shaman can still have that potential mid no matter what. So you have that core setup already, and then that last pick can then go into an aggressive trilane, because Kunka and Vengeful Spirit are very aggressive, or can be very aggressive on rotation, or they can have a general setup of a safe lane, rotate out, and kind of have whatever carry that you need to destroy the safe lane or off lane in that particular situation if you're playing it safe, and push out that off laner. So that's kind of what I'm going for. Thoughts on this? Do you think that there's a weakness in here?
It's completely thrown me off. I didn't think about the Shadow Shaman mid, even though just last week we talked about putting him mid after the patch came out. So I'm a little... The draft I had for you to kind of go back against yours is kind of in shambles right now. Mainly because the Enchantress being in lane with Abaddon, I think.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Not very many people do it. I hear you, man. But it could be weak. I want to hear what do you think is? Do you think that that's going too greedy? Do you think I'm not giving enough to what she's mainly supposed to do?
No, I think it's fine. I think it worked out great. I like it a lot. I don't play Enchantress. I think it would be a great lineup for our team to run if we wanted to. Only issue would be something like with the Shadow Shaman mid with Kyrie. I don't know how you would play that, but I think it's something that could definitely work. The draft I had for it is one of them is one of your banned heroes, which I see up there in the top right. The draft I had for like to rebuttal yours was a Dark Seer for the Abaddon, just kind of trade in that lane, and I was going to have an aggro try with Elder Titan, Lich, and Slark.
Okay.
So, and then the mid was going to be, I had Brewmaster, but I feel like there's different mids that you could go with. So yeah, but now with the new lineup, I'm not even sure if I would pick all those heroes. I mean, Slark would be a definite pick, but you've banned him, so that would be an issue. So yeah, I really like this draft. You always throw these crazy drafts at me, and I'm always like, oh, well, this is how this is going to work, and I'll counter it by doing this, and then you end up changing it completely on me.
Well, and what you kind of brought to the table is also another thing about the draft, is that you can always go back to that if it's going to work out in your favor to have the Enchantress go into the jungle. And then you can have kind of two people farming. You can have that Abaddon transition to that off lane type role, and then Enchantress goes into a farming support. So, I mean, there's multiple ways that you can run this. The idea of why it, like, so stuck with me is that you can have this split push potential with the Shadow Shaman and kind of like run down. Okay, I'm gonna drop some wards over here, get them to all TP in, get those cooldowns on TPs up and running. Then you have Vengeful. You have Vengeful and Abaddon. Like, yeah, you don't have Vengeful, Abaddon, like a bunch of other guys to push down something, but you still have two heroes that are incredible at pushing. And Enchantress isn't too bad either. You grab one creep, and she's pretty strong at it as well. The only hero that isn't really strong at it is Kunka, and even if they have that potential to TP in, you got all that team fight with Kunka. So, yeah, I'm like so hyped about this draft right now. Right now, I want to play it right now. So, any questions on who do you think that there's a hero that you could substitute in this scenario? Would you rather have like Omni instead of Abaddon at bottom, or is there any way that you would switch this draft around at all?
I wouldn't switch out the Abaddon. He's such a high pick right now, and he's like the top win rate, I believe, in pubs.
Mhm.
So he's a really good hero, even with his nerfs that just came out. I think the Vengeful Spirit you could probably switch out for a different carry. Opening though, like you said, if you open with the Vengeful, like it still looks like a support, and you still have that a chance to go with it as a support or carry. So I'm not sure what you would switch it out with, but I think if you wanted to, if you felt like you needed to sacrifice any of those heroes, I feel like the Kunka or Vengeful Spirit you could probably swap out. I think the Kunka is supporting the Vengeful.
Right.
So I think you could still go with like probably. I mean, any support. I think that can team fight well with a Vengeful. Like you could go like a Leshrac, or you could go. I'm just thinking of different heroes. A Crystal Maiden, probably not as strong as the Kunka, because Kunka can kind of transition later into that core role. So I think a Leshrac would work well also, because he helps push down the towers as well. And timing that stun with the Vengeful stun would be pretty easy. So it'd be a pretty hard lane to go up against. I'm biased against the hero anyway. I really like him. But I mean, yeah, I think the Vengeful you could probably switch out, but that's about it. I really like it. It's really cool thinking about it. Like when you're talking about it, I'm just sitting here going off and like daydreaming, thinking about Shadows on the mid and how you're able to push down towers so fast and that extra damage that he has. Like I played him as a support the other day, and it's just like the amount of damage that you're able to put out harassing somebody out of lane is insane. So why wouldn't he work as a carry mid, right? So I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Oh, I appreciate it. So, like, looking at this draft, and I was thinking, all right, so what are the problems with the draft, right? What are the things that I got to run with? Really, the main problem with the draft is kind of the late game potential of it, and where it goes from a certain point. Now, you do have Enchantress and Vengeful, and they're not too bad in the late game, but let's face it, Shadow Shaman is kind of like a ticking timer. He says, okay, I'm going to have these wards, and they're going to be pushing, and I'm basically going to guarantee every time I lay down wards, I'm going to get a tower. And if you have that potential, that's fantastic. But at the same time, you can't, if fights go wrong, then those wards mean less and less as time goes on. So I was thinking, all right, so I can't be pushing for the late game. I got to kind of take care of some of those problems. But at the same time, my whole draft is about dominating the lanes. And that's kind of what I always draft around, right? Is like, okay, I know if they pick any one of these combo of heroes, I should be winning this matchup. But that's not always the way that Dota goes. And it's for good reason, right? Because, I mean, you can generally make a mistake here or there and have general input that another hero you just weren't expecting. So if something goes wrong with the draft, then I was looking at the ideas for what these bans can do, right? What can we do with this draft to kind of make it possible, make it flexible? And I went to the bans. I looked at Kotl. Kotl is kind of the biggest problem for this draft because of just the AoE bomb potential. Like, okay, yeah, you can Shadow Shaman, you can lay down wards, but if your creep wave gets cleared immediately, all right, then the tower is just going to kill your wards. Or if you're going to be these guys that with all this potential that need to end it quickly, you need that potential to not have these guys that generally clear it out. And kind of the same thing with Nyx, right? Like Nyx has that potential to go around and pick someone off in the back lines. And looking at my draft, all of them are pretty weak except for Abaddon. And if I'm doing Abaddon support, oof, he's gonna be even a little bit weaker. So the blow up potential on everybody but Kunka is kind of the problem. Because yes, Enchantress has the ability to make people hit slower, but I mean all he needs is that one auto attack, and once he gets it off, stun, mana burn, probably dead with that potential. So that's kind of why I went that path. Then I went for Slark and OD because one, Slark is a problem for most of those heroes. You can't really lock him down as a Shadow Shaman. Yes, you can still get Blink Hex, and that can work pretty well. But the other heroes in the game, yeah, you got Kunka, you got all this potential, but you don't have a lot of AoE damage. It's like, okay, yeah, we have the potential to lock him down, kind of, not really. So I'd rather have that kind of taken out of my combo. Plus, the other problem is generally having, what is that item? The Echo Saber. Echo Sabers are huge problems for Enchantress, and they need to be taken out. So you get rid of Slark, you get rid of an Echo Saber carry, and then you have OD. Just OD's like the one guy who says no to Shadow Shaman mid. He's just like, all right, I'm gonna put you into a space where you can't do anything for a little while. Enjoy yourself, and that's just annoying to play against. So take him out, and then lastly, Puck. I kind of had this situation come up with me the other day. Yeah, you have a lot of in-lane potential for harassment and just general outlast hitting. Thing is that Puck can dodge that a lot of times and put out the pressure on you, which because his auto attack range is what 600, and then Shadow Shaman's is now 400. It's actually a pretty big deal, and you have to get like 2 hits on. Puck can get 2 hits on you before you can get 1, really giving him more damage, and he can phase shift as your first hit. So like the potential coming out for him is just not worth it. You can't like outplay a Puck in that situation. Is there any heroes that you would be like, okay, you have to get rid of this guy for this draft?
I don't think so. I mean, Slark definitely. You're talking about Nyx. I was just thinking about playing Nyx against an Enchantress. It's always funny when you go out for that first attack in Vendetta and you're like, it's so slow and you're just waiting for it, and then it finally hits and you burst her down like it's nothing. But yeah, I think Slark would be a definite, and any hero mid that's a lane dominator would be hard to lane against as a Shadow Shaman, especially with his ranged nerf, even with his damage buff. So like the OD, like you said, it's just that hero dominates a mid lane so hard that it's probably, I wouldn't say impossible, but you would have to play it nearly perfectly as a Shadow Shaman to be able to control that lane. So I like your bans a lot. They make a lot of sense. The Kotl, like you said, when you get up to high ground, you're like, all right, and you lay down those wards, and it's like you can't really push because there's there's no creeps because Kotl is doing Kotl things. So I really like your bans. I don't think there's anybody else that I can really think of off the top of my head. To be honest, I actually really like them.
The ones
I
I
don't know
was
how much.
the ones I was worried about were, at first I was really worried about Lifestealer, right? Because Lifestealer can go into a situation where he can go immune to the magic, right? And then he can just kind of burst you down. Has a lot of chunking damage. Thing is, though, is that I have the swap ability, so I can kind of kite him around with that problem, and then that's not too big of a problem. I also thought
Right.
about the obvious slot arcs, as he was so popular, and I don't really see that as much as a problem. And like he's just his potential has gone down quite a bit. You still have the Abaddon to get rid of his stuff. So
Yep.
um, yeah, I was kind of like going through this draft. And I was thinking about all the stuff that's current. And I'm like, yeah, it's not that big a deal, right? It's not that big a deal.
Right. Yeah. So I like it a lot. I'm just gonna throw my draft out there. I think it still do okay. One of the heroes was banned. The draft I said earlier was the Elder Titan, Darkseer, Lich, Brewmaster, and Slark. Brewmaster versus Shadow Shaman mid, it would be kind of a pain because he's got the nuke availability, so that would be a pain. However, I do like the rest of them. I like the Elder Darkseer Lich combo. I like having the extra armor from Lich to be able to help out with their push. And then the Elder Titan kind of disrupts any kind of team fight unless he's the one that's getting swapped. But still, even then, he can disrupt some of the team fight because you've got two melee heroes and then a Shadow Shaman who kind of needs to be close to hit somebody unless he's around them, nuking them and hexing them and shackling them or something like that. So. On the Shadow Shaman, would you build him like a typical Shadow Shaman? Would you still go blink into Ags or something like that, like more of a push centric type of build, or would you go into like, I don't want to say fully right click, but there was a game I went full full meme town, and with Shadow Shaman, I was just playing him, and it was a pub, and I actually played him mid, and I went Blink Ags, Deso, and Moonshot or something like that, and it actually I think it was because the skill level that I was playing with. I was playing a pub with some old friends, and they were like 1K or something like that. So it was very fun, very easy to play. However, just thinking about the potential, I still think you would still go Blink, and then I still think Ags on him would be pretty good, being a mid hero. I'm not sure what else you would go on him unless you go like Refresher, Boots of Travel, and then maybe like a Shiva's or something like that. Or not a Shiva's, a Sheepstick.
Well, generally, what I kind of found to be was like Blink was super key. The thing is, actually, what's kind of really funny is that something that I thought of before they nerfed it a little bit was kind of going into the whole Shadow Blade build. You could go Shadow Blade, run up on someone, hit them once for like a lot of damage because your auto tech's so big. Just smack them in the face, stun them, like use your chains to stun them, deal damage, zap, and you could kill pretty much any support. So you could kind of farm supports off of that for a while. And every time you kill a support too, you could kind of push a tower. So you run in there, kill a support, and then you push the tower. Thing is though, the mana availability for him is still really poor. So you would have to have a way to get around that, and you would then need to go mana boots. So if you go mana boots with that, it would create a kind of counterbalance of trying to be useful. You're kind of going too much into the pick-off potential and not into just having enough mana to exist. So really, I kind of like rethought about it and thought that Blink is like the way to go. Like Blink, you have to have, because Blink Hex is just, I mean, it's crazy good. It's why Lion does it. It's why everyone does it. So you just get that potential to get that immediate stun out of nowhere, and it's also just a really good ability to stay alive when you're split pushing. If you're gonna split push, you can just have that blink into the trees, and TP out. I also kind of like this idea too. If you go into blink and then actually go blink TP boots, right after you get your mana boots. So you go mana boots just to like exist in lane, maybe a bottle, so that you can pick up the runes and things like that. Just get that extra mana potential. Then go blink and then deconstruct your mana boots. Have that orb for a while, and go into a TP boot build. And then from there you then go Ags. Instead of going Ags Refresher, Ags Octarine. Just so you can get that potential to push more often. Going Ags and Refresher is a better build in the sense of you basically, okay, I guarantee a tower. But I would rather have the ability to use my wards during team fights and then possibly use them for a push before they're up again than to have the potential of using a really long cooldown to guarantee me to get 2 wards to like guarantee that I get a Rax. Just personally the way that I play, and I encourage people to play in that way because I'm really about the pickoffs. So
Makes sense. Yeah, I like it.
yeah.
I definitely think, like you said, the blink would be necessary because he does suffer from mana issues if he goes Shadow Blade and say your rotation, your gank doesn't work out, then you gotta later use your Shadow Blade, and if you don't have the right mana regen, like it's kind of the pain. So
Right.
Yeah, I like it.
Right. So you could go a couple different paths. I still think that Shadow Blade could potentially work if you go into getting a bottle as well, because then you kind of solve some of the mana issues. It's just one of those things where you would be pretty much using the shrines off cooldown constantly, and it could be too hazardous for your team. If your team is prepared to do that, prepared to go into these hyper aggressive scenarios so that you can all take full advantage of it, then it would work out. It's just more of a player build. I can't really advise people on that because it's kind of a team to team style than it is a specific style of what the draft is capable of. Because you're doing the same thing either way. You're still picking off people. You're still getting, hopefully, a style of picking off a support, grabbing the tower, and just getting your team that constant amount of gold to then just be a deadly force of 4. And then you can hopefully grab the potential lockdown by using your blink and your stuns and everything like that for them at that point. So that's kind of the idea of what Shadow Shaman's there for. We then go into Vengeful, and Vengeful's kind of that classic Venge build that builds into that classic carry Venge build. I actually still, even with the nerfs, I think that going into Helm of the Dominator is still really good with this build. Helm of the Dominator creep with a Enchantress dominating more creeps, just kind of giving you that giant push potential with the Abaddon hitting down a tower, giving everyone a big buff to their attacks, generally creates a massive push. And I really like that potential. You will want to like not max it because obviously you're going to want to have you're not going to want to max the Abaddon auto attack because you still are like that support role and keeping people alive. But it offers something, right? It offers something to what the damage is going to potentially be, and that mid game is going to be that much stronger. We also are want movement items on her in general, and force staffs and things like that, because that's really going to be the thing that hurts people the most. Is that it's a force staff. I'm force staff gaming. I might as well just come out and say I'm always about the force staff. But if you're playing with an Enchantress, it's even more important because the distance manipulation is crazier than ever. So if you have that manipulation of where people are and where you're going, you can save Enchantress as your main damage dealer, and you can kind of move that Vengeful Spirit around the same way, swap Enchantress to then be right on top of them, have your 2 carries attacking the same people. You also got boat and all those different things to keep them alive. So a lot of potential on that end. Venge needs to just be able to moving around everywhere and kind of farming where the potential she needs to farm. So still Maelstrom's really strong, grabbing that up early, giving that potential of farming, maybe going into what's that item called? Yasha. Yasha and going into maybe even Sage and Yasha if the potential is there. I think it's really strong on her individually, and the potential of what you can do with that item is just very strong. Abaddon, I would have him go for more of a Mana Boots mech build into the Greaves, give him as the potential of kind of healing up the group, letting a lot of things happen at there, kind of just forming this massive tanky guy that exists. Hopefully grabbing a pipe later on, or even earlier on if he needs to, and having other people go different things that are needed. Shadow Shaman obviously is going for that split push potential. We got Abaddon, we got Abaddon, we got Venge. Kunka, he wants to go for the earn. He wants to be able to help people when they are getting these ganks. He's going to be ganking constantly in the beginning before people get their BKBs. When he racks up those earn charges, he wants to be able to push off of them. So we're going to have Kunka with earn, not Enchantress, because Enchantress is going to be your farmer. She's going to be an off-lane heavy farmer, almost basically be your 2 instead of your 3. So she's going to be coming out of the woodwork with something like Midas or like your choice of boots, and just the potential of going boots, Hurricane Pike for the range slash movement, and Ags. So if you can go for the Midas, I would go for it. Otherwise, it's most likely going to be too greedy though, and you just want to exist with her. So yeah. Would you go anything different on any of these heroes?
I don't think so. I like most of those items. I like the idea of going the Greaves on Abaddon. It just helps you, because it's always a pain to have a lineup and then not have the sustain, and that lineup kind of sucks with sustain besides like the Kunka rum or something like that, but that's not really sustain. It just kind of keeps you alive in fights. So I like the idea of that. And then the earn on Kunka I like a lot. So, but yeah, I wouldn't really change anything, to be honest with you. How would you feel about facing against like an anti-mage or something like that, somebody that can split push and that can take advantage of like going late game if you're able to stop their early push?
That is a good question. I think that the best thing about anti-mage that I have is Kunka. Kunka has a very solid lockdown to keep him in place. It kind of offers that potential quicker than any of the other heroes can. Also, I mean, looking at it, I also still have plenty of lockdown with Shadow Shaman. If I can keep him in a spot and guarantee that he's locked down with the X, then I can kind of keep him there with Shadow Shaman, because he doesn't want to build BKB, right? It's possible, but it's not very strong. So I don't really fear AM, but you are right. Having that potential of that split push that can be better than you, that can kind of go behind the enemy lines, is scary. It is scary. Is there any other heroes you're like thinking about that's crazy?
Probably. With the AM though, I feel like once he gets Manta, I feel like it's kind of a pain to keep a hold of him, right? Because he can Manta if he times it right. He can Manta off the X marks, correct? You have to be like really good at timing it, I think. But
I don't think you can. You may be able to, because you don't exist for that second.
Right. You have to time it like perfectly, I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong. But besides that, I mean, there's the split push heroes in general would be, I think, okay. But then again, you have the Kunka X, so you could send somebody to a tower to deal with a certain hero that's split pushing and then bring them right back, or deal with the creep wave that's up there and then bring them right back. So I was just saying AM because he's so mobile. And I was thinking of when he did get Manta, if you are able to dodge the X with Manta at the right time. I was just thinking like the catch on him would be pretty hard. So But shackles last a long time, so yeah. I mean, and you don't want to build BKB on him, like you said. So, I think there's things that would work against it, but overall, I think it's really strong, especially for the type of play we've been talking about the last few weeks. The get high ground early and take out all the outer towers and take that tier 3, faster than normal, or as fast as you can. Essentially, every time wards are up, if you can push with those as a team or something like that. So yeah, I think it's a solid draft.
Yeah. Do you actually, now that you kind of brought it up, you kind of brought up another carry. I had to have that plan for AM. I didn't even realize this. Jug. I think Jug would actually be the hardest problem for this team.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
spin potential, his ultimate doesn't worry about auto attacks. He can split push really well. I actually got to change my ban list. I got to say Jug is on there instead of Nyx. Take Nyx out of there, man. I know it's a problem, but I can't deal with Jug. Jug just sounds too nasty right now. Plus, he's got the
Yeah.
Arcana. No one likes new-looking stuff. It's fine. Get him out of there.
Yeah, I think he'd be really good as well. Like you said, with the spin, you're able to dodge a lot of things. And then Enchantress, her passive literally does not matter with his ult. So he would definitely be a good hero for that lineup. And also being, like I said, being able to dodge a lot of stuff. So trying to think of other heroes. I feel like you can't really do anything illusion-based, really. I mean, you can, but Kunka, after a while, takes care of those. But I was thinking, like, Phantom Lancer or something like that. But after a while, I think he would possibly fall off. I'm not sure, though.
Yeah. Well, it's also with Maelstrom, man. Maelstrom is like such a popular item. It's really hard to do illusions to begin with. So
yeah,
there's that potential.
Changing the Nyx to Jug.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Yeah, I felt like the Nyx was more of a Enchantress and Shadow Shaman thing. Like, he can burst down a Vengeful, but I don't think he shouldn't be catching the Vengeful completely by herself or without a way out or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she has that swap. So I feel like Shadow Shaman would suffer, and then the Enchantress obviously would suffer. But if later she can get a gem or something like that, or you can put it on somebody, and he can't really burst anybody down at that point unless he's able to get like an Ags and set inside the base and just stun everyone and then kill the creep wave and all that stuff. But
right. It's more of the potential of what the pickoff can be, and I
Right.
mean, if you play it right, you should be able to beat him in lane. Was my idea of thinking. It's like, okay, well, if you put him as let's say they have that off lane potential. You still have X marks the spot, so they have to, he's gonna be pulled back versus a Kunka, no matter what, even if he has his stun up, and even if he knows that he's gonna get hit after the X, and he like times it correctly for your torrent's still gonna lift him up longer, and it's gonna slow him afterwards, and then you also got a stun from Venge. So the potential in lane, he's not that good versus that combo, so I didn't really worry about that. It was more of, okay, he has this potential to like kind of exist in lane if he gets the farm where he wants to get the farm. And then if he does get that potential, Shadow Shaman is just so weak versus him. Like, if he just is somehow able to get the level 6, whether it's like farming the jungle or something, and then he just ganks Shadow Shaman over and over and over as he's split pushing, or just once or twice. The potential of what losing that your mid player to someone who's underfarmed kind of brings them back into the game, and then they can take out other people from there. Is just something I was worried about. But yeah, I think Jug is more the problem.
Yeah, I think for the early game, any hero that can rotate decently would be an issue too against the Shadow Shaman mid. Like, say you had like a bounty hunter, and then the mid hero was a Mirana or something like that. I'm just looking through random heroes. Like, I feel like Shadow Shaman's pretty weak against that. Like, he has a Hex. He would have to get like an early level of Hex to be able to maybe escape or something like that. But you can't really shackle somebody to help yourself escape. So I think that would be a little bit of an issue. But But yeah, I mean the Jug I think would be the better ban over the Nyx. So
Okay, let me ask you this. So I got all these guys set up for a reason, because like, okay, we got Kotl. Obviously, I explained a little bit about him. I explained Slark. I explained Jug. Explained OD, just his potential in general. And I mean, you can also buy BKB and just destroy certain heroes with him. Just he's a natural BKB carrier and just destroys your potential to exist and kind of kills out mana as well. With Puck though, obviously you have the potential to go into the doing a bunch of magic damage by going into your Veil or going into Dagon in general. Now, I didn't think about this, and I know I should have. Tinker. I think Tinker destroys this draft as well. Split push, a lot of nuke, a lot of magic damage. What what do I take out? What do I out of those three, out of those five, what's the worst, the the one that I could take out that's not as bad? Because I think Tinker's more of a second phase pick, so I'd have to do it second phase. But I need to get Slark
right.
and OD out second phase too.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a tough question because I feel like Kotl's definitely first phase. He's so popular right now, and that kind of goes completely against what your draft is trying to do.
Mm.
Like you said earlier, if the creeps are gone, you can't really push with your wards. You're just wasting them. So I feel like he's definitely necessary. Maybe, oh man, maybe put it where the Nyx is and bump everybody down. Put Jug and Slark as second phase and OD as last. I don't know though. That's really tough.
I'm thinking
because Tinker.
I'm thinking take out Slark, man. I'm thinking about it because we got X for Slark. I mean, he'd have to go BKB and then he has answers. But we have X, we have Swap.
Yeah, but if you're wanting to focus around Enchantress, like Echo Saber and Silver Edge, which a lot of Slarks build, completely destroy that hero. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
Yeah, you'd have to. I think the way you draft it though would be. It would just depend on the draft, really. Like what they draft at the time, like certain times or whatever. Like if they pick their mid, second pick or something like that, you don't really have to worry about banning a Tinker or something like that. Like say they pick up a Shadow Fiend second pick or something. It's like, oh, okay, which that would be really dumb against Vengeful Kunka, but anyway.
Right.
But so, like I said, say they pick up their mid like second or third pick, and then you're like, okay, thank God we don't have to worry about having a Tinker unless they try to run that mid hero in safe lane or something like that. But
right.
Yeah.
Now
Go ahead.
No, that's cool. The beauty of the draft is that you can switch it up, and like I was saying in the beginning, you can have that Kunka and Venge, and then just make them the supports and kind of go from there. Actually, one thing I even thought of is that, I mean, even if you're wanting to keep that Kunka Venge combo up top with Shadow Shaman mid and have that Abaddon offlane with some type of duo aggro, you can always go Undying, or if Tree ever becomes in Captain's mode, have Tree up there and kind of have that potential of like pushing people out of lane instead of what Enchantress offers. Also, you can always go to the jungle and things like that we said. I just feel like if I'm looking at this draft and I'm saying, okay, this is where it fits in, the items that are available to these heroes, or the skills that are available to these heroes, are the ones that we need to take out. So it's kind of counterintuitive to have too much there. I don't know if this draft is good anymore after talking. You said you liked it. I'm going to take that as a win, but...
Yeah, I mean, no, I still like it. Like I said, it just depends. Like, you're able to change it up, right? And then if you pick up Vengeful Kunka, like, that's still a solid support duo. So if you pick those two up and they pick up any of the heroes that you don't want to play against, like they pick up a Kotl or they pick up a Tinker, and you're like, son, like, no, I don't want that, then you can just change it. Like, you're able to go from there. You can even put the Kunka mid instead of support, and you have different ways to go with it. So I still think it's a solid, like, that's a solid two hero opener. And then if you're able to go with your draft, you go with it. But I think the issue with Slark also is, like with Abaddon, it's not like a huge issue, but it's just something I think about with Abaddon. And it's the same with OD. When Abaddon's alt pops, you can either just ignore it, and if you have the CC to kind of keep him there to where he's not able to escape with his ult, or you can just build up stacks on your Slark or OD because it just continues to build up and it doesn't really matter. It's just endless, right? Mm-hmm. So until his ult's done, and then you just hit him even harder and he dies. So that's just another issue with Slark that I was thinking about. But and then the catch for Slark, like his purge is so dumb if he times it correctly. Like I feel like that hero is so good in pubs, especially lower skill pubs, because that purge, if you don't time your stuns correctly, like he's able to get out of almost anything. So the purge on top of the Echo Saber, on top of the Silver Edge versus Enchantress and all that stuff, like I think that hero is definitely a need ban. So
yeah.
I think honestly, I think you can leave the puck out. I think you can take the Nyx and the puck and get rid of the Tinker and the Jug if that's what you need to do. But if not, then you can leave the puck in. But I definitely do think Jug is a ban for sure. So
yeah, it's hard to generally say. Like Tinker is one that's people know well enough, and it's something that you want to keep an eye out for in no matter what level you're in. Because I mean, he's a rotation hero. You just do certain things in rotation. Kind of harder to plan for things like a Meepo pick or, Visage player or these guys that take like a bunch of micro that exist in the game that are just a little bit harder to play and have that potential. And those are the things that, you keep those as like background bans, but I never really suggest to anyone because the amount of Meepo players that really exist out there are a handful compared to like the general population of Dota. So... but Tinker is kind of in that boat. He's kind of not. A lot of people play him.
Yeah, I struggle with him. Like I've tried to play him a few times, and I think after practicing him for some time, I would be able to pick it up. But just to start out with, like it's a lot of people don't want to mess with it. A lot of people are too worried about playing their Invoker or playing just the regular mids like Shadow Fiend or something like that because Tinker might be too complex or just the timings of your items and the timings of using your items, like the soul ring and stuff like that. That was my main issue. Was I would get to a lane and I would misuse my soul ring and then my ult and then all that stuff. Like it's a very active play style and a very active game when you're playing Tinker. And sometimes some players don't like that. They like to just sit mid and kind of farm what they can and go from there. So yeah. Anyway, I still like the draft. I still think it's good. I would still like to run it. It would just be a matter of convincing Kairai to play Shadow Shaman on our team. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. So we've kind of gone through the picks. We've gone through like different things that you can do. We've gone through the bans and what's possible. I lost faith in the draft, but Kimbrell has brought me back to it. So it's a thumbs up for me once again. I think I found the way. So with a little bit of help of Kimbrell. And we also talked about what items we would get on these heroes, general paths that you can go down. So we're kind of done with that section. Now we're here to rate our beers. Well, Kimbrell has been drinking his. Sadly, I am a party pooper this time, and I did not get to drink a beer. But Kimbrell, why don't you rate this beer? How good was it?
Okay, so the sho'nuff, the random beer that I picked up at the liquor store is, it's not bad. It's not great. It's not as good as the Moose Droll was I had a couple weeks ago. But last week. Last week's was really good. I was able to drink it, room temperature, so it was pretty good. But I would give this one probably a 3 out of 5 thunderclaps, I think.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah.
Your lowest one yet so far.
Yeah. It's not great, but it's not like anything, like I'm still drinking it, so it's not an issue, right?
Right, of course. All right, cool. So we've rated our beers, 3 thunderclaps. So maybe if you're ever in Okie, you're an Oklahoma guy, right? Of course.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're ever in Oklahoma, maybe not get this one. Maybe get it. You never know. It's probably not for everyone, but you could give it a shot. with that, we're going to close out the show today. So if you ever want to help us out, you can always like or subscribe to any of our videos. Through Twitch, you can go to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Toffees_Dota2, which you're probably watching right now. Or if you go to our YouTube channel, if you want to watch later on, it'll be up there at 5 Midas Gaming, all one word. If you ever want to listen to our podcast instead of watching the VODs, you can find us at all 3 places. You can find us at Stitcher, iTunes, and SoundCloud. So anytime you want to try to listen to us instead of going into these VODs, you feel free to go there whenever you're on your late car trips, or your just long car trips, I should say. If you want to give to our Patreon, we have new different prizes and things that we're doing on the weekly, pretty much. So if you want to go give to there, our Patreon is www.patreon.com/Toffees. If you have any questions for me, Toffees, or Kimbrell, you can reach us at all of our Twitters. For Toffees' Twitter, his handle is @ToffeesTV. For my Twitter, it is @FlubbDota. For Kimbrell, it is @SKimbrell_, the little tail at the end. And then we also have, if you ever want to ask me questions, it was for the Flubb date. I wasn't actually able to get to it this week. Sorry guys, I was sick, like I said in the beginning of the draft. If you have anything though that you want to ask me, not even just Flubb date questions, but anything that you want, or casting, you can reach me at crazyflubb@gmail.com. Well, I'm glad that you guys were able to have a brew with us today, and this time actually have it